Welcome. It's Michael Rager, your business guide here with Teach Your Business to Fish. We're hoping to, give you a little bit of business information today while we talk about that. And our second favorite hobby is fishing. So I want to open up today. We're going to have Mr. Lee Winkelman. He's been on here before, the handsome attorney from Houston. He's gonna talk a little bit about culture and workplace culture and how things change. And I really want to segue into this is. We've been pushing out on our Facebook, and those of you guys that are following us, that we're doing a lot of offshore fishing trips, and we're doing stuff on a friend of mine's 60-foot hatteras. And when you're putting 8-9 people on a boat that don't know each other and want to be successful, it's really, really interesting on how things go. And one of the things I think we fail to do occasionally is we fail to set expectations. We fail to outline what everybody should be doing. And we sometimes assume that people that are going to come fishing with us actually really know what they're doing. And, and that's something as business owners and as fishermen and the things we're doing, we can't always make those assumptions. We have to actually go in and build a culture, because culture is very important. A lot of you know that I trained with John Maxwell, and me and John, we differ on the importance of strategy. But I think one of the things he says is that culture will eat strategy for lunch. And I agree with that. Culture is a great thing, but I think culture with a killer strategy and killer systems and killer processes is you've got the ability for nonstop success. And one of the favorite places I like to go to as a business owner is when I go to Vegas and I need a break. If you're ever in Vegas and you need a break, go take a tour of Zappos. Zappos is there. If you guys don't know what Zappos is a shoe company, and they send shoes out from all over the world. But you can the culture there is amazing. Anthony Shea, the CEO of Zappos, has set this place up that it's like 4 stories, and there's different things. There's only, I think, 4 rooms that actually have doors on it. And even Tony, his desk is right in the middle of the second floor. And what I loved when I went there, he had a bottle of Grey Goose that was about that big on the side of it. And he just happened to not be there the day I was there last time. But man, they're taking a tour, here's the CEO of a almost $1 billion company, takes questions from people that's coming through when he's there. But his team is excited. They give food away. I mean, you go there, and if you're an employee, you don't need to bring breakfast or lunch or snacks. And they said the only thing that they actually charge their employees for is for energy drinks. They said because most of their employees are young, and they'll drink them out of house and home because they're expensive. Right. But you just think about that as a culture. Right. Exactly. When you go in there is a chalkboard that's like 9 foot high that outlines all the perks of living, of working there. Right. And they actually put together a book every year that they publish where their customers give praise for their customer service reps.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. No, that was a great, amazing segue. Thank you. Really, that was good. I'll tell you, I think, when I talk about culture, this comes from it, and just so everyone knows, I'm an employment attorney by trade, and so yeah, that's better. Yeah, I'm gonna get blinded if I'm looking over in that direction. I have to figure out where I can look. So, employment attorney by trade. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and a lot of this comes from a lot of my thoughts on culture comes from what I've seen work at companies. I've seen a lot of companies. Here's the thing about company cultures. Okay, a company culture is a lot like, you've heard people say, I don't know if I can use this term because it's derogatory, but a butthole, okay? Everyone's got one. Okay?
Right. A belly button. Okay, everybody's got a belly button.
Everyone's got one, okay? But the thing about it is that for the most part, they all stink, right? A lot of them stink. So what you have to do, really, if you want to, I would encourage any new entrepreneur or anyone that's really anyone's got a business or has control over dictating the culture of a company, that you're really very intentional about that. Okay. And that you're really intentional about creating a culture where and actually what is culture, right? That's a good question.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
what actually is culture? And I would say that I would look at culture, a company's culture, in 2 pieces. Okay, I would say that on a broad sense, it is the sum of the behaviors you reward in your employees. Okay. And then on the so that's sort of the how what kind of behaviors are you want to promote amongst your employees. All right. And then that's gonna bleed over into how the vertical relationships and the horizontal relationships and the outward facing relationships.
Well, one of the things that I've seen with bad culture, when I've seen it in organizations, I was always taught that you get what you accept.
Right, exactly.
And if you don't set the standard, that's what you're going to continue to
for sure.
get.
Absolutely. You treat human beings are such that we will do what we are rewarded for doing at the end of the day. And there are what I would call catabolic behaviors and there are anabolic behaviors. Catabolic behaviors are behaviors that come from a place of fear, that come from a place of anger, that come from a place of frustration, and that sort of thing. Okay. And then I would say anabolic behaviors are behaviors that come from a place of love at the end of the day. All right. From a place of service, those types of things. All right. Catabolic behaviors we see all too often. All right. You got everyone's rushing around at the last minute, screaming at one another, trying to get a project completed. All right. Because of poor time management or what have you. We've all seen it. People that are stressed out at work that will throw staplers whenever they get stressed out. These are all very catabolic behaviors, and they suck the lifeblood. They suck the energy out of a company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's I can't remember the exact saying was. I remember when poor performing on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine.
Yeah. Poor planning on your part does not constitute my emergency. Exactly.
But how often does that happen though?
Yeah, a lot. More often than you'd like to admit. In fact, the thing is that most people, I think, live their lives in a very catabolic state. Okay, live their lives from a place of fear, live their lives from a place of frustration, live their lives from a place of anger. More people than you would think. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that, and we can, that's a whole other thing about that. All kind of starts with you getting yourself right. Right. You can't kind of be in an organization or be if you're not right, But certainly, the organization wants to be hiring people, does not want to be hiring people that are exhibiting catabolic behaviors or they've been rewarded for that, does not want to reward those types of behaviors. Because I can tell you that will make money, can make money in the short run, okay? But it's not going to build something eventually that lasts at all. Right. In any sense.
Well, it's, one of the things when we're going in, we're talking to businesses, we want to build a business becomes a sellable asset eventually. And it's very hard to sell a toxic culture.
Right. Exactly.
It's way easier to sell something that when people walk in, people are happy. I had a client a couple of years ago, and the father-daughter, daughter kind of was coming in, wanted to take over from dad. And, dad just was staying back at the fringes, but we called him a seagull. I mean, this is seagull. And so the seagull is, they fly in, they squawk a lot, they poop on everything, and then they fly away.
Exactly. Yes.
And dad was a seagull.
Yes.
And what would happen is she would work so hard over 60 days to start getting everybody to come together.
Right. Dad
would come in and poop on everything.
Exactly.
And oh my God, you did it. And everybody was moving, and it would destroy 60 days worth of work in 3 hours.
Right. And I'll tell you that if you're not, if I don't know what the dynamic was there, but I'll tell you if someone's not confronting dad about that.
We did.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's going to continue to happen. And that's a great example of how you build a culture, is that you don't want, look, if you're coming to me, if you're coming to me just talking about a problem without a solution or without offering me up a solution or something, you're just bitching at that point. You're just complaining. You're not helping. You're not moving the ball forward, right? Yeah. And that is, again, catabolic behavior, right? You're not growing. You're not moving forward. The other thing too is what we see a lot of times that's rewarded within companies, and I see this a lot within the law at law firms, is competitive behaviors. Okay, so while you want people to perform well, all right, and in some sense people can only kind of find competition amongst one another. That competition has to remain at obviously a healthy level, and you have to. You need to be rewarding, you make sure that you're rewarding ethical behavior within competition.
It's really funny is when I first got into coaching, I've talked to couple different firms that were bigger. So looking at law firms, the way you guys structure them, there's some that are meant to be cooperative. I mean, you guys, your firm, you're very cooperative.
Yeah.
But I said, man, some in there, they're cutthroat.
Yes.
And they're killing each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. And that, that's why we have our law firm set up the way we have it set up, I'd like to say. And I think that those law firms do a disservice to their clients at the end of the day. And boy, this is what I want to, we haven't even gotten there, but sort of the upshot of all this building a great culture is that's the first thing you build. You build that internally. That can't help but reflect externally to your customers. Okay. And that's the same thing, that if you take the same attitudes, the same values, all right, you take those same values that you place in what we want to see as a culture in the company, and that's also how we're going to treat our customers. That's also how we're going to view the public and that sort of thing. I would encourage companies to really ask themselves what they're doing to show their employees that they care, all right, other than a paycheck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And you brought up the Zappos deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are great examples. There's a myriad of different things you can do. I mean, one of the things that I like to do, anyone that ever works for me, I don't care, I'm one of the, 3 managing members of the firm. To the receptionist, we call her the director of first impressions. She's actually amazing employee. But I want her input, right? She's always going to have a say. My saying is, you always have a say, but you can always get your way, right? But if I'm empowering my employees, right, if I'm empowering the people that work for me, and they feel like they've got a dog in this fight, that I'm going to listen to them, that I care about what they have to say, these are people that are going to work, and they're working in a sense to not get a paycheck, but they are now working to not let me down. Right. And that is a totally different way of working.
Well, yeah, but I know we got about a minute, Jonathan, before we're heading out. Yeah. So, we go back, Lee, I'm a little bit older. But when I was growing up, it was always the customer was always right.
Right.
That's what they always said. And now to have great culture, what I've found is if you trust your employees, and put them above the customer, right, you never have customer issues.
No, exactly. And I want to say that I think that they probably, if you want to look at the company's key constituencies in terms of who their relationships are with, I think the relationships with the employees are always going to come before the relationships with the customers.
Oh, they need to.
They have to at the end of the day, because you're not going to have any customers unless you have employees to service them.
And you need good employees. And that's the thing is, I always heard about it, when I grew up in Michigan, they made it a right to work stake. People were like, oh my God, they can fire anybody. I go, but I've never known a business to fire its best people. No,
and real quick, just on that, just so we're clear, it's at will. At will employment is the right to work has to do with union.
Is it at will?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's
it's all union up there.
Yeah. Okay. So right to work so what that meant was you could be a member of a union without having to pay dues of the union. You could actually be not a member, under the collective bargaining agreement. So unions hated right to work laws because you got all the benefits of a union without having to pay money
for it. Yeah.
And then so the unions went out of business. That's what happened in Texas.
Yeah, that's going. So there we go. All right, so we're gonna we're gonna come back with Lee. We'll be back in just a minute. Hey, welcome back. This is Michael Rager, your business guide with Lee Winkelman. Lee, hey. All right, man. We had some good chat starting off on culture and good culture, bad culture, and what it means. And we were talking in the break. Those of you that are not following us on Facebook and stuff, you can get some of the behind the scenes Facebook Live stuff, and actually on the days that we do the recordings and stuff like that. But follow us on Teach Your Business to Fish, or business owners and executives who love to fish and hunt. You can catch us up there. But man, we were talking, Lee, about some ways. I had a client a few years ago, and a very interesting culture. It was a nail salon and was owned by the youngest daughter of an Oriental Asian family. Yeah. And her mom and her older sister worked there. And a lot of the staff were Asian too. Mm-hmm. And what the issue she had was she would tell something, but there was so much respect for the elders. Okay. Mom would come in and change her mind and override her. Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh. Right. It was. Yeah. It was like weird.
Yes. And that is something that, so that's an interesting situation, right? So you've got cultural issues. You've got things.
You got thousands of years of cultural
issues. You've got ingrained behaviors that you're going to have to just figure out a way to work around. Actually, at the end of the day,
we did interesting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like, instead of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, just figure out how to get the right round hole, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's a really tough one, and I'll tell you that is something that, I mean, it's actually it raises the broader issue of when we talk about culture, right? The first thing we think of, I think when we think about cultures, we just think about cultures around the world, right?
Right.
Workplace culture is, we want to make sure that all of our workplace cultures are inclusive of everyone, right? We don't want to have, because you know this as well as I do, there are some companies that have just reputations that, this is the way what it's like to work there.
Right.
It's not a friendly place for minority story. I mean, companies have that in this day and age, believe it or not, have that reputation. And so, it's important that we, that we respect, obviously, all, all world cultures in the sense of whenever we're looking at what our company culture looks like. And we want to be as inclusive as possible. And I'll tell you this, the things that I think you won't ever have a problem with that if you stick to sort of the virtues and things that unite us all as human beings, right? When we talk about, loving and serving one another, right? What does that look like? Respecting and honoring one another. What does that look like? I think we as human beings know what that is. We know how to do that without having, regardless of sex, regardless of race or custom or what have you. We know what that looks like. It may look differently a particular place than others, but at its core, that's what it's all about.
Well, but it's going back to the old standard, treat people how you want to be treated.
Exactly. The golden rule, yes. That if that should probably be every company's, just their company philosophy.
Philosophy, mission statement.
Company philosophy. We will, as an employee, you must treat other people as you would want to be treated. As a, facing the customer, you treat that customer as you would want to be treated. This is loving. This is what it means to love your neighbor as yourself, right? That's what that means. That's what that's all about. It is literally treating someone how you would want to be treated, having the same respect and honor for them. And I think that is truly a rule that it's golden for a reason, because it sums up.
It sums up
if
everything.
You're following that, you're going to get everything else right.
You're all right. Yeah, you're good. So when you're going to build a company and you're going to build for culture, how do you go find the right employees and bring them in?
Man, I have been blessed, I would say, to have people kind of fall into my lap. But I feel like I have a pretty good ability so I'm big on, I don't need you to have a certain definite skill set or be able to do something specific. What I look for in an employee is attitude. And I call that, I can't cuss on here, can I?
Nope, we can't cuss.
Give a S. Your give a S. Your give a care. Okay. How much does this employee give a care? Right. How much is this employee invested in working for my company? And if they've got a lot of that, boy, that can cover a multitude of sins. Right. You can teach a lot of the skills. You can teach, but you can't. I can try to motivate you, but that's external motivation. And I think I've talked about this before on this podcast, but the difference between internal and external motivation is external motivations are never going to get you where you want to be. I can put carrots and sticks and everything all I want, but I can't, get inside of you and make you want to do this because you want to do it, right? And one of the things I can do, though, to instill that attitude of giving, of showing or increasing an employee's give a care is showing that employee how much I give a care, right? If that employee knows how much I give a care about them, they're going to give a care about me. It just works that way every day.
I always taught people, you recruit for attitude, train for skills, because it's always there. We can definitely do that, and that's a way to go. And there's actually ways that you can go through that. There's I trained under Brad Sugar, everyone's action coach, and he had this thing called the 4-hour hiring system. One of my favorites, I teach to a lot of my clients right now. Cameron Herold, in his book 𝗶𝗶 teaches how to find the right employee, and is not doing it the way everybody else does it. It's very, very different. You came up with the job title for your, the chief of first impressions,
director of first impressions,
director of first impressions, and that's it. I think every doctor's office and dentist office, it needs to make that, because it is. Because I've walked into. I had a friend of mine. She owned a chiropractic clinic, and I went in there and I'm like, man. She gets me on the table, and I go, man. 30 seconds after talking to your receptionist made me not want to stay here.
Yes.
Yes. You need to change that person.
And let's talk about this. If you're if you're anyone that's it's outward facing a client,
Yeah.
and I see this a lot, you know, lawyers who are jerks to other lawyers' assistants because they're not the lawyer, you know.
Yeah.
Boy, that or even is a jerk to a client. That's even worse, to a client's assistant.
Right.
I mean, that's the worst. I think that that shows how the way you treat the sort of lowliest person at that company is an indicator of who you are at the end of the day.
One of my good friends, Lady Pam Tripp, she's a CEO of 𝗂𝗹𝘁𝗧 Health out in North Carolina. We did some work with them, helping them write systems and processes. But her team, the culture in her team is incredible. And part of the reason is Pam and I both studied, you know, John Maxwell, and that's when we met in line waiting to get a book autographed. And we just became friends, and we started talking. We ended up doing business together. But what she started to do, she took over 𝗂𝗹𝘁𝗧 Health, and it was like, as CEO, it was like millions of dollars in debt. You know, they're paying like doctors $50, you know, a day to work. You can't afford everybody. She instituted what she called her Eagle training, and she started going in and doing leadership training organizationally.
Right.
But most people thought she started at the top, and she didn't. She started at the bottom. She started training everybody at the bottom to become a leader.
Right. Yes.
And what she found was those that didn't want to step up left on their own. Right. And then what happened was the bar kept getting higher and higher for even those lowest paying positions in what was required internally. But when we went and worked with them, here's an organization of several hundred people that are all going in the same direction.
Right. Exactly. No, exactly. And that's a good example. You bring up an interesting point about the employees that that don't want that leadership. You know, look, there's nothing wrong with this, but there are some people that they want to just be told what to do. They want to go to a job for 8 hours a day, be told what to do it, leave, come home, and that's it. Yep. The higher up you get in a company, the fact of the matter is, the more in management you get, it's just like elevation. You're just elevating higher and higher above the fray, and you're actually you're less and less. You're being told what to do, as opposed to being told what to achieve, and you have to decide how to get there, right? That's sort of like that's the essence of moving up, and that's kind of like the idea of when you go from high school to college, right? Some people have a really hard time making that transition, because in high school it's kind of all they tell you what to do, it's rote memory, et cetera, and in college you're on your own, and you have to figure it out yourself. And I think that there's nothing wrong with being one or the other, but I think that you need to, within an organization, you have to obviously be able to have a mechanism of fettering that out and figuring out who's built.
Well, yeah, it is, and it moves this way. But one of the interesting things that Pam did is, as things started getting better, the doctors started noticing what was going on, and they're like, you know, what's going on? And they go, well, we're doing this leadership training, and I said, oh, okay, well, who's going to do it? Well, they started doing leadership training for the doctors, and the leadership training was led by the janitors and by the front end folks. Taught them how to lead.
Okay, so this is all about empowerment. All right, I go back. I'm huge on empowering employees. The thing I do on any team I'm on, I'm usually the top person on it. I make the bottom person. They're in charge of everyone. All right, they're in charge of making sure that, because I'm not going to have a meeting unless we're doing action items that these need to be tracked, et cetera, et cetera. So that person is in charge of tracking everything, and is in charge of staying on top of everyone else, including me, making sure that I'm getting my, that everyone is
getting your crap done.
Yeah, you're getting your crap done. Actually, at the end of the day, yeah. And so I am. What that does is that makes me accountable to that person. Yeah. It's instituting accountability, but the highest person is accountable to the lowest person. Yeah. At the end of the day, I have just empowered that person. Okay. I have number one, I'm showing them sort of, they're learning what things need to be done on any particular project, and they're learning what those things are and how to do them. And at the same time, they're empowered. They have the power to send me a nasty email and say, Lee, where's your stuff? Man, what the hell? And it's a beautiful thing, and that shows that I respect them, and then in turn I get respect back.
Yeah, it is, and that's it. Empowerment's a huge thing, and it's just going back to people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Exactly.
And as a business owner, you need to go in and care for your people. So we got a minute before going. Lee, how do people get a hold of you?
So if they want to get a hold of me, they can email me at Lee at hopkinscentric.com. 𝗖𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗲.com. And the firm is Hopkins, Centric, Winkelman, and Drucker. The website's hopkinscentric.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah. And just our firm, basically, we do, if you are a business person, we can help you with whatever you've got, even family law issues. We do a fair amount. I'm an employment lawyer by training. I do a lot of that, but we do a lot of business divorces. So we come in. We have guys that make businesses, and we have guys that tear businesses.
Let's talk about that when we come back. We'll talk about what constitutes a business divorce and how they get there a lot of the time. How's that? We'll go, because that's all culture. All right. So this is Michael Rager, your business guy, teach your business to fish. We're going to head out for a commercial. We'll be back in just a minute. Hey, it's your business guy, Michael Rager, and we're back with Mr. Winkelman. I almost call him centric.
Centric. Oh boy.
Oh my God. I'm sitting here getting the name that we're talking about, getting old and the crap going through your head. And I'm like,
man.
No, man. I said,
Wow.
Joe get mad about that.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would.
It's your brother from another mother.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, man, before we went to break, we started talking about stuff, and we talked a little bit about business divorce. Business divorce.
Yes.
As a lawyer,
Big D.
One of your big reasons people hire you is to reduce risk, right?
Correct. The only reason people hired me to reduce risk.
But how does reducing risk, because of culture and leadership, minimize business divorce?
Yeah. Okay. So it is, man. There are so many commonalities between a marriage and a business, especially like a partnership. Okay, if you want to think of let's think of a partnership. And let's think of the partners in the partnership as the parents of the married couple or triple or whatever, the big love family. I don't know. We're gonna look at it, but that is sort of the patriarch, the matriarch. That is this upper level. Here's what's interesting is the employees in that situation a lot of times feel like the kids. I'm telling you this 100%. They feel like kids, and they feel like when in those situations when they are the rock, they are seen as the rock. These partners, then. When the rock quakes, everyone below it shakes, okay? Because everyone loses their sense of security, and it really conflict amongst like the equity, the partners, the principals or whatever can have such a devastating effect on a company, all right? And so, one of the things that you can do as a company to sort of minimize these risks of that stuff's just going to fall apart is building a really good culture, right? Building a culture that is based on something like the golden rule. We're going to treat each other the way we want to be treated. We're going to be open with each other. We're going to be honest with each other, and we're going to communicate, right? You set up a culture like that. That starts with the partnership or the principals, and it bleeds down into the employees. You're going to do a bunch of things. You're going to minimize the risk that you're going to break any laws at the end of the day. Okay, right. If you're sort of following the goal, the idea is this: the law for me as an employment attorney, I always tell my clients, is the floor. Like we're not going to be going around bragging about following the law. All right, that's not showing our employees we care. All right, that's not. It's just not.
You're just going to follow the law because you just show
we follow the law. What are you talking about? We love you guys. We follow the law. We don't discriminate. Yeah, no, whatever. No. That's your floor, okay? Right. So you want to kind of go, above and beyond that. So if you're always trying to hit above and beyond the law, even if you fall short, you're going to hit the law, right? You're going to hit the legal. If you're always trying to do sort of the ethical things, many times, the legal thing does not equal the ethical thing, all right? Yeah. And if you're always trying to hit the ethical thing, you'll generally always hit the legal thing, all right? Okay. The goal in those terms. So you'll minimize your risk that you're going to be breaking any laws, you're going to be liable, you're going to have any legal exposure, all right? And you're also going to minimize the risk that your company's going to fall apart, and that if it does, you got to get lawyers involved, right?
They're expensive too.
They can't, look. Have I ever told you my philosophy of life?
Yeah.
My philosophy of life is this, okay? I have to make this segue. I have to say this now.
Yeah.
All right. My philosophy of life is that I always want to give more than I take. All right. Yeah. Believe it or not, a lawyer saying that.
Yeah.
So I want to add value to every transaction, every relationship I'm in. So while yes, I am expensive, I feel like my clients, I go so above and beyond for my clients that they feel that there is so much value in that.
I can't complain because sometimes I charge more per hour than he does. But it is very interesting in where we get there. But it's a take on having a good lawyer as part of your team.
For sure.
You know, when I built my last company, you know, my lawyer was a part of the team. You know, when we had meetings, big meetings, he was there talking with me and my board of directors, and he was giving us input so we could make proper decisions.
And you need to make sure and I will tell you this, a lawyer that does that, a lawyer that's going to be a team member like that, is a lawyer that cares about your team.
Yeah.
Right? So there's two ways you can practice law. You can practice law and you can say, I'm practicing law and I have this ability, this skill and ability that I invested a lot of money in, that I'm good at, all right, that I can help people with. And I'm doing it because I want to help people with this skill. Or you can say, I need to make money, I'm going to make money. Right. And you want to, I'm going to optimize how much money I make. All right. Now, we want to make money, obviously, but if you do the first part, if you're looking to serve your clients the best way you possibly can, the money will come. Yeah. It always does. If you're seeking to do the right thing, the money will come. It will. At the end of the day. And you want a lawyer that is looking out as, you know, for you, that cares about you as an individual, that cares about the company as a company. You know? Yeah,
it was funny because I introduced another lawyer friend of mine, David Murphy, to Kirby. Yeah. And and that's the reason I wouldn't introduce somebody to you guys if I didn't feel they fit the culture. Because you know, David's I love his. We sit out and smoke cigars and drink whiskey together, and he goes, I want my clients to feel like I'm a small town lawyer in the middle of a big town. Yeah. You know, I'm somebody that cares about it. Everybody knows me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. No, that's exactly right. You want to be, I strive to be, I say, I want to be a lawyer people like to actually talk to. There you go. And you'd be surprised how many people dread getting phone calls from their lawyers, and how many people don't want to reach out to their lawyer because their lawyer's either going to be a jerk to them or doesn't have time for them or act like they didn't have time for them or whatever myriad of reason. Man, wow, what I would be so upset if I knew that a client, you know, literally was trying to, you know, was shirking my calls because they were scared to talk to me, right?
Avoiding you.
Avoiding me because I've done I've done something very, very, very wrong if that's the case. Yeah. You know, so I think that you want to be you want to be a lawyer. I think anything you do, man, not just a lawyer, you business coach, accountant, whatever. You want to be someone that whatever you do it with energy, enthusiasm, and people that are on the receiving end of that can tell that you really care.
Yeah. No, it's you look at my position is when my clients come to me, I can't say use this guy. Right. You know, and I've got to go, it's like, hey, I've got 3 or 4 lawyers that I really trust. They're all great people. You go talk to them and you tell me which one you're going to use that you mesh with. Right. Because it needs to be a great relationship, not that fearful relationship.
And I'll tell you this, and going back real quick, you asked how do you sort of decide on employees? I think that with employees, you sort of know, all right, you're going to, when someone comes in to an interview, you can get a sense pretty well from an interview what that person's personality is like, what that person is, how they're going to engage, you know, with you as a team. And obviously the more people they meet and that sort of thing. But I think that we a lot of times whenever you talk about how you go about hiring, obviously you have the necessary requirements or what have you, but you know, when you go in and you talk to somebody, you just interview somebody, and you get a feel for it, and I think you know pretty quickly.
It's pretty interesting because you know, so many people now have been trained to interview, and you don't kind of get the real them. Yes. And you know,
but to me, okay, I can spot that a mile away. But authenticity is the number one thing.
Yeah, you know, we've got some systems that we put in place where people deselect themselves. Yes. We ask them to do things and they refuse and say, okay, well, you're not gonna be that. You know, I've known my wife was telling me about the guy one of the guys that she used to work for. He would take potential employees out to lunch and then watch them, like if they put salt on their food before they even tasted it. Okay. He said, like, hey, this person's already prejudging. Yes. They're not seeing it. And these are like little cues to them as what this person was really like.
Right, exactly. You know? But here's the thing, incomplete knowledge, all right? It could be that employee goes to lunch there all the time and knows for a fact that food is not going to need salt. I'm saying you got to watch out for stuff like that. I've heard of those things.
I mean, they do it all the time. And, you know, that's the thing that we like. I want to come back. We got, what, a minute and a half or so, Jonathan? 2 minutes. Okay. I want to finish this segment up on culture. Then we got our last segment. I want to come and talk about leadership.
Yeah.
And where we look at it, because the gentleman you were talking about in the break, you were talking about, I want to share my John Maxwell stuff, and let's see how things come together. Because I was pushing it last night, and I asked this question of my team. I said, "Who's the better leader, Gandhi or Hitler?" And I had to think about it. We'll come back what the answer is after this. This is Mike Rager, your business guide. We'll be back in a minute. Hey, this is your business guide, Michael Rager, and we're back with Mr. Lee Winkelman. All right, Lee, we were putting together and we talked a little bit off camera about my question: who is the better leader, Gandhi or Hitler? And like I said, I trained under John Maxwell, and honored to train. John's kind of seen as a leadership guru, but under John's definition of leadership, he says is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Right. So when we look at the two people we mentioned, Gandhi and Hitler, they both had influence. They both had people that followed them for different reasons. I came, when I teach this lesson, when I go into my clients and I teach it in seminars, it's like, under that definition, they were both great leaders. The problem is they had one had a really crappy message.
For sure.
And, the other one, but we see bad leaders all the time, but we see people. During this shutdown that we've been in COVID, one of my favorite shows has been Narcos.
Okay, yeah.
And watching, Pablo Sandoval and oh man, I forgot the Mexican guy's name. They ran all the pot farms, and then But you look at the leadership. There were guys that died for Pablo. Believed in everything he did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But how do we get to, when we get into organizational leadership? One of the things we were discussing in the break was, what happens when we get silos of leadership in an organization?
Yeah, so you can do so a lot of times you can have a situation where the person with the most influence isn't the person with the job title.
Right. The
person with the job title, CEO, doesn't have the most influence in the company. And you can have situations where let's say the VP of sales does, or somebody like that, or the VP of HR is sort of has the most influence. And what this goes to is that as a leader, wherever you have influence, you have influence. Okay. Right. And that's good news and bad news. And so if you find yourself within an organization where you've got a team of people working for you, but you find the culture of the overall broader organization not so great, and you want to instill a different type of culture in your team, you are certainly able to do that, and you should and you can. But know this, that you will have to run a lot of interference for those team members. You will have to, you will be the one standing in the gap between the broader company culture, which is somewhat toxic, and your own team's culture, which is you're trying to promote these high, loftier ideals and those sorts of things. So it can be done, but just know that it's difficult. It's more ideal to have this thing. It's easier said than done, right? It's as the bigger a company scales, the more difficult it can be to maintain culture. And which is why I think at that point you probably need somebody either put in the HR function or however you want to look at it, that's going to be really intentional about overseeing the company's culture.
Man, I've been in companies and they put in like the queen of culture, and it was Miss 𝗷𝗷 cheerleader. Yeah. And it just, we had engineers and stuff, and we just sat there and just, that's not. No, that's not a culture.
That's what I call kind of toxic positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of this. It's a lot of it's sort of trying to inspire. I think is what it's trying to do. It's trying to lead, because that's one way to lead, right? One way to lead is to inspire people. I think that's a great way to lead. Is to inspire people. But I think you've got to realize that just getting in there, being 𝗷𝗷 cheerleader, and being a sunshine pumper is not going to inspire people. What's going to inspire people is if you're real with them. If you're cognizant that we all have real problems, that we all have things outside of our control, outside of work that we're dealing with, and your employees know that you care about those things, and that you realize they may have crappy days. Things aren't always going to be great, but it's how we get through those bad times that define us, right? It's how we move through the difficult things, what we do when times are tough, that define who we really are. It's easy to be a rah-rah sunshine pumper when things are great. That's easy. It's when the chips are down, when times are tough, what are you going to do? And I'm going to tell you this, if you've built a strong company culture, that is built on service to one another, that is built on the golden rule, right? It does not reward toxic behaviors. When times are tough, you will survive.
Yeah.
If you have a toxic culture, when times are tough, you will go under.
Oh yeah,
You absolutely will.
Well, there's here we're coming out of COVID right now, and
Right.
a lot of these businesses went under, but a lot of them are going under anyways, just because of that.
Exactly.
This has exasperated it and made it way faster.
I have never known, I have not known now, don't get me wrong, you can have the most well-hearted, well-minded, well-meaning people that are just make crappy business decisions. I get it.
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone that is like there's always this fear, this like innate fear. I don't know what, that like the nice guy finishes last. You ever hear that, right? Like that if I'm too nice or if I'm going to lose out or whatever. And it's like, I have never seen that come to fruition. I have never seen good behavior anything other than, we say no good deed goes unpunished, but I mean, the fact of the matter is ultimately good behavior results generally in good things.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Right.
Period.
Well, man, we got 2 minutes to get out of here. What's one last thing? You're gonna tell a business owner that's coming to you. You're the attorney. Give him one culture tip.
Boy, man, one culture tip would be that your employees have absolutely. If you take nothing else away from this, it's that your employees need to know how much you care about them. No, that means I don't care what you have to do to show. There's a lot of things you can do. A lot of things you can do. I want to give a shout out to a man that I'm proud to call a dear friend, Tom Mendoza. Amazing guy. The business school at Notre Dame's named after him, and he was the president of a company called NetApp, and is on the board of a lot of companies now. And just a great guy. But that's sort of his, his deal is that he's all about company culture. Everyone should Google him and listen to his talks on this. They're amazing. He had this deal where a CEO of a huge company, and he would have this thing. He said, caught people being good, okay? And he wanted management to tell him if there was someone that went above and beyond, did something they weren't asked to do, tell me about it. I will call them, give them kudos for it. And that small thing. And he was like, that's like 20 minutes out of my day to make one of these phone calls. He's like, and that does so much for those employees. All right, that's a great example of just one thing you can do to show your employees how much you care.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. One thing I tell my company, my clients is go after the Apple guy, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Is you don't hire smart people to tell them what to do.
Right. Yes.
You hire smart people to tell you and help grow your company. Yeah. All right, everybody. This is Michael Rager. Lee, thanks for being out here today.
Absolutely, man.
We've enjoyed it. And Jonathan, we out? Sweet. We'll see you guys next week.